What's happening? Benton here. We're on the StreamYard. Paid the 45 bucks. And traffic jam is clearing up. So that's good. But I took advantage of it long enough to schedule a live stream, get it going. My voice cracking out, blowing my voice out, especially all that hooping and hollering that I did earlier. Well, I've been on one preaching today, that's for sure. Is it Easter Sunday? Is today Easter? I don't know. I'm out of the loop, but perhaps it is. 30 minutes out, maybe closer to 35 from the truck stop. And we're taking a 34. I thought I was going to deliver in the morning and then figure it out. But then I asked the company last time I stopped before this, when I ended the previous stream, I went ahead and sent the company a message and asked them what we were doing. I said, am I taking the 34 after I drop this load? 420 is Easter? Okay. I have no ideas. Good to know. JT, good to see you, sir. I did some preaching earlier. I don't know if you're into preaching. The, I don't know, first hour of the previous stream, I guess. I don't know exactly how long it lasted. I thought it was all right. Thought it came out all right, personally. Just my opinion. But yeah, we're doing a 34, so the company wants me to drive out the rest of my clock, which is 2 hours and 5 minutes. But with all these slowdowns, I won't be able to make it to an acceptable truck stop to me as far as being able to go to Wally World tomorrow. I need to get gloves for fueling. The truck stop are hot garbage. So Walmart's got some decent leather gloves, so my hands don't get so dirty and stinky when I'm fueling. So I'll buy those. Those are, I don't know, 15 bucks, I guess. Some, eggs, of course, and some other things. I'm going to stock up on apricots. The last Walmart, Hope, Arkansas, no apricots, at least in the jar. It was mostly canned pineapple. Anyway, I don't know how much I have to say, since I tend to catastrophize at times. I assumed I was going to be in that slowdown, but it cleared right up. It was just folks pushing to the front for some. The left lane was ending, so instead of getting over when the sign said "get over," everybody likes to go to the front. It wasn't too bad. That was slow down. Harbor Freight. Yeah, the problem with Harbor Freight is they're not always conveniently located for having a big rig. That's a wrinkle for me, JT, is where am I able to access with the big rig? And a lot of times, although some of the Harbor Freights are definitely, some of them are close to Walmarts, and then some of them are in parking lots where I can park the big rig. Now, what I don't like to do, I don't like to pull into the area where the deliveries are made, because invariably when I do that, then delivery trucks end up coming in. Sometimes I do. Famously, I spent the Christmas a couple of years back parked behind the food line, but I had enough space where we weren't disturbing the. Oh, actually, I only got 17 miles to the truck stop. Now that I see, so this might be a short one after all. I was way off. See, yes, 17. The GPS thinks I got to go like 4 extra miles, but I think what's happened is they've redesigned the road, and They've redesigned the road, and the GPS hasn't figured it out yet. Sir. Like slow moving still there. Right here. Can do. Can I yell while I make the yeah now? Doesn't look like or on 145 ish, so 130, 145. And I would be happy to drive out this last 2 hours if that's what the company wants, but not to end up in the middle of nowhere on my 34-hour restart. Yeah, we're not doing that. Yeah, that's a good suggestion, Harbor Freight, JT. Some of the stuff's some stuff in there is total crap. Mr. Miyagi, Mr. Miyagi, is a Harbor Freight. Well, the audio it up. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Probably doesn't know to use the earbuds. That's probably what that is. Well, actually, it's probably because I'm trying to train on this. It may have been on the 5G. That's probably what it is. But hang on, we'll see if we can fix it. No, I'm on the Bluetooth. It's probably it's funny. The LTE, the 4G is way more reliable going down the interstate. The 5G seems way more likely to bungle the handoff for whatever reason. StreamYard doesn't like that, so I can stay in battery saver mode and it keeps me in 4G, but I'm not able to charge the device and remain in 4G the whole time. So that's most likely what that was. Oh well, such is life, as they said. But yeah, man, I'm having a great day. I've definitely, and again, I don't know how much of the earlier broadcast you were around for, JT, but I've reached new heights of uh, spiritual attainment and understanding and all of this within myself today. And, in fact, realized that even as I believed I was doing what I needed to do to, get past the judgment on the positive side, on the wheat side as opposed to the tear side, that if that's a thing, right? There has to be room for doubt, at least in my world. But if that's a thing, like the Bible says, then um, I believed I was fulfilling what I needed to do, and come to understand that I was actually lukewarm, and I was 95% all in. I thought I was all in, but all in is 100%. I was trying to say that 5%, for my preferences, for what I might enjoy, for pleasures of the flesh, if we could think about it in those terms. I got to make sure I don't miss this exit too. Turn around, don't drown, says the sign. Well, turn around we can act on, but don't drown. That's a negative. Human mind cannot process a negative, but not to act on anyone. The mind only hears drown. You might drown if you don't turn around, meaning flooding on the roads there. But probably since I'm in Kentucky, maybe the internet is not so great here. I'll tell you where I found really fast internet on my phone was in Michigan. of all places. When I was in my depressed state, driving all around trying to figure out exactly where in the heck I was going to stake my claim, at least temporarily. And I don't even like to speak in those terms. I shouldn't even say it that way, but trying to figure out, where to physically remain. I'm coming to understand now that, well, number one, I'm going to be, and have been, by the way, have been guided to be in the right place at the right time. So to trust in that process, number one. And number two, I'm not sure it matters, right? Overall. Yeah, the weather's bad too. There's no way I can get to that other truck stop. I had found a truck stop on the other side of Louisville that I was eventually going to try to make it to. It wasn't quite as, the truck stop didn't quite suit my needs for a 34. But then I realized, well, if there's slowdowns and if it starts raining, I really have no hope of actually making it there. So we're laying up, as it were. Play a layup. And I don't know if I'll end up with this company or not, but I'm grateful to this company because they put me back in the game. See, I'm back in the game. Now, if they were to fire me, then I would have some explaining to do if I tried to get another job, and then I might have to drop down a tier into a company that maybe hires drivers with a little more of a blemished record. It seems like this company is quite strict on, and I'm truck driving if you don't know, but they seem quite strict on they need a clean record and all of these things. And the driver facing cameras, which a lot of folks are not willing to put up with. What I'm realizing is I'm just going to do what I'm going to do while I'm driving. Initially I was a good boy and, on my best behavior with respect to fucking around with these devices. And I even declared that I wasn't going to live stream while driving. As we see, I think that lasted maybe 2 days, right? I don't know why I even bothered to say that, but I did. How foolish. In my folly, right? All right, bear with me. We're hyper vigilantly making sure because I'm certainly capable of just driving right past this exit. Wow, dude, that's so flooded. Somebody's barn's almost completely underwater. Dude, their outbuilding is completely underwater. Their house, though, the main house is on high ground, but they have all of these right by the interstate. These people had all these outlying buildings on the lower lot, the lower part of their property. Every damn bit of that shit is underwater all the way to the roof, and probably not the first time, right? But the main house, I was happy to see not underwater. And as I see a billboard for the sportsman's rod and gun, I do believe some of my current path and my further attainments, I do believe it's tied into getting rid of all those armaments. In fact, I own no weapons at this time. I probably shouldn't say that publicly, but I don't know, man. Does it even matter? Because if people came against me physically, I don't know that there's anything to defend at this point. I mean, is there? This earthly life, is that worth defending? I mean, realistically, it's going to end anyway. If I'm now living to fulfill my purpose, like I know that I am, but I believed I was previously, right? But was that some version of fake it till you make it? See, that's part of the fun, right? Not really completely, you know. Well, that's the thing is, I know now I know that I'm living it, but previously I thought I was. So, interesting how the delusion can take root, but it doesn't seem to be able to take root in the long run, at least not with yours truly. I'm realizing now if I want to take a shower, I'm going to be paying for a shower because I'm not going to Love's, but that'll be all right. I could use a beard trim. We got money, at least for now. And we use money, at least for now. When in Rome, as they say. When in Rome. Visibility is poor. We're making sure to keep plenty of following distance. And, I suspect that these companies, as long as I'm able to pick up and deliver on time for the most part. Now, this load was supposed to be delivered tomorrow by 9 p.m. Although I'm realizing now that if I shut down now, actually, I still wouldn't be able to make it and do a 34. I was thinking, actually, no, I won't be able to. It's close, though. It'd be close, but not quite. I didn't make it far enough. And that's because of the weather. If not for the weather, I could have made it all the way there today and delivered a day early and still did a 34. But it's better to do the 34s because of the hours I like to work. Hang on, we got to pay attention. We got one off on the shoulder and can't get over for him. Sorry there, Bubba. Nothing to do, nothing to be done there. But I figure as long as I'm mostly picking up and delivering on time, and I'm a safe driver, meaning I'm not getting tickets. I'm not dinging the company safety score. I'm not tearing up the rig. I'm pretty sure they'll continue to employ me. Although you never know. You never know. And I guess that's what I mean. One of the things I'm referring to when I talk about there's no security, there's really no peace in this world. Like the peace is really, as far as I can tell, it's only to be experienced within myself. It's not, it seems like a backwards deal to try to seek to arrange one's circumstances where now eventually if I do the right things in this world, then maybe I can put those puzzle pieces together and finally, serenity now, I will experience peace because, I've experienced a great deal of peace both yesterday and today on the advent of these, the the unfolding revelations. The unfolding revelations. Oh, 3 miles. Be vigilant, sir. Be vigilant. Hopefully the audio's better. Hopefully. And I suspect, although I can't say for sure, that, at least a couple of months on this job, I'll rebuild my resources enough. I definitely want to get my car worked on. I've been talking about that for a long time. Although I do realize now I'm almost certain that I left my windows cracked. So with the torrential downpours, I might come back to a moldy car. So maybe I'll be inclined to sell it once I go to Arkansas, handle my personal business next month. Looking forward to that. Get the old tags renewed, get the old license renewed. Not looking forward to a return to Baxter County, Arkansas, though. I may swing through Fort Smith and see if I can talk the motel into letting me become a resident of their motel and not be there. And I'll pay them a fee. And any mail I get, they can just do with it what they want to. Because my mama's quit updating me on my mail. I have mail that goes to my mama's house, but I really never wanted to be updated. And I always felt like she was updating me because I could tell she's very, she used to be very anxiety ridden and a very guilty person, but so I could tell it was based on anxiety, right? Because some of the mail would be, my son bought a car and there's a recall on the car. So now all these recall notices are coming in the mail. So my mom would be a worry wart around, something's going to happen with the airbag or whatever. Lady, ain't nothing going to happen to me. All right, I got to pay attention because the GPS is not going to guide us in here. We've got to find our own way to the truck stop. Shouldn't be too difficult. Now, it says there's a This is okay. Yeah, Petro. Hopefully we can just follow the signs. Hopefully the signs will guide us in. So please bear with me. Once we get parked, I feel like I'm going to have more to say and maybe even try to talk through egg time. And I do appreciate you folks for listening. I do find it beneficial, certainly. Although, as I've noted, I am, able to just talk to myself. But, this seems to be more fruitful, as it were. Now, it's got to be 2 turning lanes here, I guess. Yep, there is. Let's get in the proper lane. Oh, it's one of them funky intersections. See, now we're on the wrong side of the road. I don't like this shit where I don't know what this is called, but y'all know what I'm talking about, right? Where on the exit, it's all, it's hard to explain, but I'm sure it is more, I'm sure it's more efficient though. It's got to be. Well, I can see the truck stop. Surely I can drop to it. Hell, we might. See, I would. They got a truck. They got a blue beacon. I would get the truck washed. But it's supposed to rain for I don't even know how long. But what I'm pretty sure of is in fact, I was even sending my mom $50 here and there. And one time she got real anxious about the money, right? Like I could tell she was really guilt ridden and anxious over what to spend the money on. And I'm like, well, then spend it on yourself. What are you talking about? And she's gone back into the workforce, unfortunately. And it seems to me like ever since she's gone back to work at the Hallmark, well, I shouldn't say where she works, but where she does work, it seems to me like maybe that was, and I'm pretty sure my sister, I'm almost certain that sees psychological control of my mom, sadly. My mom is programmable. I hate to say, but that's what the cult did to her. Preyed on her in that way. The Jehovah's Witness cult. And I'm almost certain she's on the anti-anxiety medications. And to me, that's no way to live. Now, that's her choice, obviously, but it absolutely, if that's the case, it absolutely changes her personality. I mean, there's no doubt about it. All right, we're looking for the truck entrance now. Where do trucks go? I guess we go. Oh, there's a sign. Okay. Some of these truck stops, it's not at all obvious how to get the fuck into them. In fact, I left the Loves this morning. I ended up going out the car entrance, but fortunately, it was early enough in the morning and there was actually room. But I was having trouble figuring out where the exit was. Yeah, here we go. We're here early enough to get the free parking, so that's good. Oh shit. Gigantic hole off to the right. But somebody's put their tire in, I can tell. Don't do that. Yeah, I like these Petros and TAs because even though they tend to have the angled parking, the lots are generally like way fucking bigger. Which direction should I go? We'll go around this way. Why not? Thank you all for your patience. And eventually I might start showing video, but I've seen some actual trucker channels that do trucker content, and a lot of those guys have some kind of 360-degree camera that it like goes on the oh shit. Am I fucking up? It goes on their like a headlamp that goes on their head. And so when they turn their head to look in the mirror, you could see what they're looking at. I think that'd be really cool. So, short of doing something like that, that we'll go back to, because just showing the road, I can tell it's not really, that ain't really it, is it? It's really not. Now, are these reserve spots? Sometimes the reserve spots are not very well marked. So I think these are free. It looks like they would be. Now I got to make sure I find one where they can't block me in, like what happened this morning. I don't want a repeat of that. This will work. Maybe. See, no, trailer's not going to make it. Trailer's not going to make that turn. All right, I know where I'm going to park. Park. If these are free, I'm going to have to go in and ask, I guess. This place is dead, though, so I can always just move later if I need to. Crawling through the lot, going the wrong way. Let go, let God. Truckers pray too. This guy's got what would Jesus do? Got crucifixes all over his tractor. That's interesting. I don't reckon I'll ever become like that fella. I don't reckon I will. Okay, here's reserved. I see it. Okay. Yeah, these are clearly marked over here. Well, that's good. They left some parking up close that's not reserved. That's nice of them. We'll take it. A pretty decent chance of a torrential downpour, I'm guessing, tomorrow. I need to wander into the truck stop for anything. Oh, yeah. Okay, I see. And passed it up. We're fucking this deal all up. What are we doing? What are we doing? Now, those are all handicapped. Well, shit. Shame on the mess. Okay, I see what's going on. I done said that about 5 different times, though. And this is how things in trucking, this is where the dispatchers and the people who don't drive trucks, it's hard for them to factor in. You just never know. Things that seem like they'd be simple and easy can take a long time, such as when I dropped the last load at a major corporation, a major retailer. Uh, shit. Everybody's pulled in instead of backing in, and it's making it to where I can't pull in forward into any of these spots because they've all done what I'm trying to do and gone to the other side. All right, I think we could finally make it over yonder. There we go. Oh, right by the trash cans. That's where I need to be. That's a great idea. I love it. Love that. Well, let's see. Is this a reefer? Not the reefer don't bother me, but yeah. All right. All right, we're parked. We're in our spot. Thank y'all for your patience. Now that I'm in one spot, I can probably plug the other phone in. Hopefully. Hopefully. I am going to leave the truck running for now. So, it is what it is. All right, let's. I got to do a DVIR real quick because I forgot to do it this morning. I got to go on duty. My logs are behind. We're almost there. Elizabeth, well, never mind. I'm not going to say one. Nothing matters too much. Yes, there's no way I would have got to that other truck stop farther down the road. Impossible. Impossible. Create PVIR. True. Save to drive. Certified submit. Create PVIR. Trailer. Pre-trip. Save to drive. Certified submit. And we're done. We're on our 34. How about you? Pretty cool. Because this is my first real 34. Because the one I had before, I had shut down for like 24 hours because of needing to get a repair, and then they figured out, oh, just go ahead and do a 34. And by then, I only had like 10 hours of the 34 left. Like, what the heck? That ain't cool. 50 degrees, by the way. All right. One moment. Give me 60 seconds. Maybe I. Oh, everybody left. It wasn't that much of a break. I don't even mean that, but anyway. Maybe I should have parked closer to the grass because at some point I'm going to have to empty these pee jugs, right? Maybe I should. Oh, well. Worry about that later. How many are there? Although I don't pour them out on the concrete, but if it rains like I think it's going to, it won't matter. I can pour them under the concrete. I guess don't worry about that. There I am. What's happening? Better check and see how much data we got left. The old data plan. How about that Social Security Administration? Although with the echo chambers and such, yeah, it hasn't updated today, so I don't know where I'm at. This morning I had 25 gig left, so I should be all right. I guess the people that are in the conservative MAGA right wing echo chamber. It's all portrayed as everything's lovely and wonderful with Social Security, I would imagine. Now, my mama's on Social Security. Now, whether or not her payments get delayed or missed remains to be seen. It's possible, though. It could happen. Seems unlikely to me, though. I don't think it's likely. What do y'all think? How's your Sunday going? Mine's going quite good. Although, why am I? How's it 51 degrees and I'm hot? What the heck? What is going on here? Maybe I will drop a link just to see what happens. Why not? Let's invite a guest. Shall we? Hey, there's yeah, there. Now, why can't I pin this comment? That's what I don't quite understand about StreamYard. We'll put it on the screen because that'll bring them in. I had somebody, I forget who it was, that Aaron, that Australian guy named Aaron. I think that's who it was. I don't think he was even listening to the stream, but he typed link question mark into the chat. And I was like, well, what are you offering the stream, sir? And he never responded. 16 updates. Goodness. If anybody wants to come, give me the business. And I don't really mean that. Seems to be the way the panels go, right? Or it's just me listening. More likely, it'll be me listening to somebody, attentively listening and showing off my ability to listen patiently, right? Oh, see, it's already happened. Who is this? Oh, goodness. I guess they are going to come give me the business. Truther Cop, are you here? Wait a minute. I've forgotten how to. It's been so long, I've forgotten how to add somebody to the stage. There we go.
Yeah, I'd come over and here, give me the business. I saw the link. I'm gonna come give you that fucking business.
Well, I'm attentively listening, sir.
No, the main thing is you just block me in chat, man.
Well, that's
jeez.
Yeah, I'll unblock you. It's just a pain in the ass, and I'm lazy sometimes. But sure, I'll unblock you in chat.
I think I noticed Mitchell was streaming too the other day, and he didn't have the StreamYard logo. I was about to ask him if he paid for it. How are y'all buying fucking StreamYard out here?
Oh, I got my first paycheck. Oh, I got my first paycheck.
That's good, man.
And before I had the that 1 year special deal or whatever.
Yeah, they didn't do that. Dude, I fucking begged them for that shit. Like,
Yeah,
like I paid
it was weird. Yeah, not everybody got it. Yeah, not everybody got it. Yeah.
Well, I got it the first time, but then this is the second time. I was like, hey, can I just do that again? Can you like just give me the same thing? Like, nope.
Oh, yeah.
And it doubled in price. I was like, fuck you guys.
Yeah, I almost, as a matter of principle, decided no more StreamYard. But the problem is the YouTube app uses way too much of my data plan. That's really the problem. But what's new with old TC there? What are you up to, brother? Did I lose you? Oh, you're there. What?
My cell phone signal keeps going in and out. Can you hear me?
Oh, okay.
I got a clip airing tonight with you in it. You're in there. It's like a old
awesome.
broadcast I pulled down. I don't know why.
That's cool.
It's a fun one, dude. It was like the first one Paul and Slave come over, and it was after the whole Moose thing. It was a fun one, dude. Check it out.
Hell yeah. I love that.
You
Yeah,
out
if
in
I ever
Tennessee
get
now?
back to my if I ever get real quick, if I ever get back to my computer, I've got a lot of material on there. That
Like,
gold
yeah,
mine.
in your book stuff, we were watching one of those the J Dreamers one. If you could find that one, dude, that one was crazy.
I don't know if I have that one because I was gonna download all of them, and then I had a few more to go, and he deleted the channel. So I don't know if I have
Oh,
that
that was
one or
like his
not.
last one too. So probably not if you didn't get him
Yeah,
all.
I don't have it. Yeah, because I was lollygagging. I didn't realize that he might delete the channel. Yeah, it was a bummer. I don't think I ever even saw that one, actually.
Because I found like 5 videos I privated all about Moose and the Paul thing. So I just like released them in a series, and I had a cell phone recording of it, some of it, and I played that. That video was a second to last one I posted. So I posted some of that yesterday, but it's terrible
Yeah,
quality.
I don't remember a lot of that actually, but I'm sure it was quite entertaining. Your connection's still fucked up. Truth or cop?
Can you hear me? Eh,
Yeah, I got you. You're
okay.
back.
I'm gonna jump off here, but I was gonna ask you where you at now.
We're in Kentucky right now. I try not to be too specific, but yeah, I'm on a 34-hour restart actually. So just got parked.
Awesome. I'll try and jump on it. If you're on later, I'll jump on or something. But I'm in a bad spot and I got to get this fire going. But good
All right,
talking to you.
brother. Have a good day, sir. Truth or cop? In the house, or was in the house. Haven't talked to him in a while, so that was interesting. And trying to multitask, making the eggs here. If anybody feels like a monologue, that's always not always, but at this time, that's a possibility. Anybody's into that. But I'm just shooting the shit, I guess. I mean, 9 people here. Non-tent, right? Non-tent. I guess check Truth or Cop out later. He's going live, it sounds like. And I guess for me, it's either this or you know, listen to other people's content. I think I'd rather listen to me, to be honest. I'd rather listen to me. Yeah, that's right, Carl. Shameless self promotion already. Yeah, Carl's got old Truth or Cop's number. Yeah, he does. You got him pegged, don't you, Carl? Love that. Yep. Oh, well, let me put the link back on the screen. That'll bring them in. Yeah, yes, sir. That's right. This will bring them in if they see it on the thumbnail. Come right on in. Somebody remind me though. I got to unban Trooper Cop. It's such a pain in the ass on phones. I'm still spoiled. Back in the computer days, it's much easier on a computer. Pain in the freaking ass on the phone. My favorite time is egg time. All right. Shout out to the chat. Y'all got any topics? Because I don't know how much I have right now, and I'm a little distracted with the my endeavor here. I would recommend if people are into you know spiritual topics and religion and epiphanies and spiritual warfare and all of these things. I feel like I did a pretty good job on that previous stream. I think it's the one talking about that we bought a month of StreamYard. I think that's the one. I've forgotten how many streams ago that was, but at least the first hour I thought was pretty decent. If I do say so myself. Let's see. All right, you kind of see me. Boy, my hair's all fucked up. How about that? All right. Time to make the donuts. 501c3. That's right, JT. I would put that. I would show that on the screen, but say I'll keep the link there for a minute. You never know when that might, who that might be a harbinger for or of, if I'm using that term correctly, and I'm probably not. I got to say, I don't mind living in a truck. It's quite the transition going from sleeping in the fetal position in my car for all them months to actually being able to stretch out. Oh yeah. Oh, I do have to turn the truck off because sometimes the kettle vibrates off of the stove. It spills everywhere. Thoughts on the 501c3s? Demonic. Uh, in fact, JT, all religion is demonic because humankind, is incapable of creating and operating systems that are free from corruption. And where there's corruption, then here comes the demonic and the wicked and the unclean spirits. So demonic, unfortunately. And certainly, we see the fruit that comes out of the churches, right? And I guess in this case, specifically the 501c3, and everything in America is a business, as we know. There's nothing other than maybe me, right, and you as individuals. Although, I guess, even that's fraught with peril. But effectively, everything in this realm is a business, as far as I can tell. And churches and religion is no different, right? So that's what I think about that. And I've had people try to get me to come to their church, and sometimes I'm talking about certain beliefs, Jesus, and all of this, and they try to kind of, it's almost like they're trying to goad me into it by saying, well, the Bible says, that I'm supposed to get fellowship, and I say, no, it doesn't. It says a good fellowship. Good fellowship. So there's fellowship at the church, but is it good fellowship? Because if not, I ain't finna be there, and I'm not finna be there anyway. Because I don't know too many churches that insist on the attendees showing up in modest attire, right? So I ain't going to no church that don't have modest attire required. Because come as you are, that's not my understanding of the Bible. That's my understanding of Satan. That's Satan's the one to take you as you are. Seems to me like, at least I'm speaking biblically now, just what's in the Bible. It seems like, based on the doctrine and dogma of the Bible, that what's required is submission and the following of certain, laws and rules and such. What up, Catch 22? One of my favorite books. I'm sure I've told you that many times. Good stuff. Never bothered to watch the movie, but yeah, excellent book. All right. It's almost time to turn the truck off. Almost. make the eggs. Actually, I think I'll crack the eggs first. We're doing 9 eggs twice a day now, a total of 18. Well, egg yolks, I should say more correctly. These are all right, but the organic aren't as good, actually. I prefer the non-organic of the same brand, but hell, I've had pretty much every kind of egg that's possible to have at this point, as far as what's available in the stores. So overall, they're all about the same, but there's some differences. Some differences. Crack a few eggs here. Uh-oh. Snafu. Oh my goodness. I'll tell you what I've noticed about snafu is how often, because I do occasionally check in with certain channels just to, because I used to follow these channels and panel channels. I mean, Truth Reverse panel channels, and however, I think you know what I mean. And it's incredible. It's hard for me to believe just how often snafu shows up or is already on the panel, and just it seemed like he was falling out of favor to some extent back when I was streaming all the time, but never fully. But then it seems like he's managed to fully insinuate himself into pretty much all of these channels, right? And since I don't watch him anymore, I mean, I don't. Who cares? But it's an interesting phenomenon. All the places he shows up and is, accepted and tolerated, and same with Mitchell. Although, I have an affinity for Mitchell on some level, but um, and probably I shouldn't come on here and talk about people, honestly. So, um, I'm realizing that part of putting my name on it and all in and pot committed on these spiritual principles is an even higher uh, my own standards for my own behavior is increasing over time. So, probably I shouldn't be saying much of anything, but just as way of analysis. And I don't know, is Mitchell going on panels? I don't see Mitchell. Those rare times I check on a channel here and there, but certainly it seems as if there's a panel, pretty decent chance Snafu's on it. So there's always that. And when I talk about the transcendent potential of the individual, to sort of figure it the fuck out within themselves and their sphere of influence, and well, that Snafu would purportedly also possess that potential, right? So that's exciting. And I know he suffered ill health in the past, so as have I. So just one person to another, I'd like to see him maybe take his health a little more seriously, perhaps. But, I mean, that's on him, right? Other than that, I probably ought to shy away from talking about people so much. And I haven't been doing too much of that lately, although at times, well, in fact, I brought up Brother Austin earlier. That's been an interesting ongoing saga from my perspective. Somewhere I heard him mention that, I think on his stream on In a Thought Experiment, I think he said something about he was going to be on with Illumitami on Tommy's channel. I don't know if that happened yet or not. That'd probably be interesting. If that goes down, and you know if y'all saw it, if it already happened, maybe I can go find that. It's quite the process here, right? I realize part of my craving of caffeine lately has been that since I'm out of my routine, I've inadvertently only taking half the amount of ginseng that I usually take. I think that's got something to do with it. Because I'm still pretty caffeinated and it's already 1 p.m. my time, meaning the time I woke up on, and it's 2 p.m. Eastern. Just separating the yolk from the egg here, or from the white rather. Bam, egg yolk. 2 to go. I realize now I'm not being that patient and I'm getting way too much white in with the yolks, but that'll be all right. Be okay. Mhm. And it'll be interesting to see over time, how solid of a connection I'm able to maintain with all of the recent epiphanies and the, deepening understanding, which really is it's just a coming out of what I see it as is a sort of leaving, certain delusions and and then certain things like depression and all of this is I'm thinking probably going to be a thing of the past, but everybody gets down at times. But I've gone through it, man, the last several years. It's been quite the slog, as I'm sure many of you realize. It's been quite the slog. Maybe they might have a scale in there. I need to weigh in too at the truck stop. I bet they do. One of them ones you put a quarter in. And back to Snafu real quick. I will say this without really talking about him personally. It's always been a little curious, like what are his motivations for, not for, you know, interacting in the ways he interacts, but more so the frequency and just, and I realize I was also interacting at a high frequency for quite a while, but I do wonder what that's all about on some level. Never have quite figured that out. I guess one would need to probably, observe him in the physical. And I don't know that that would be really enough in it for me, right? If I'm willing to speak in those terms to, make that happen. Hanging out with Snafu, who's probably some kind of government agent, right? I mean, who knows? But then again, who isn't? Seemingly, whether they know it or not, seems like just about everybody's a damn agent, whether knowingly or unknowingly. And I don't mean you fine folks who are listening to me, just more broadly speaking. What up, Rebecca Joe? Been looking for a purpose? Well, that's interesting. I don't know too much about you personally, but and of course I don't have the answer to that clearly, but I would wonder if there was a motherhood in the past, perhaps, just out of curiosity. None of my business, but just thinking about how ladies often find a purpose in motherhood for a time. But again, I'm a man, so what do I know about it? Absolutely nothing. As far as experientially, and never will know. So, but yeah, that's interesting. Well, keep us posted, Rebecca Joe. And I'm sure. Well, I shouldn't say I'm sure, but um, yeah, it's interesting, the idea of purpose. Why is not why are we here? Why is a specific individual here? Is there a mission? You know, what's the point? Existential type of crisis, not a crisis, but not a crisis, but existential. Dread, perhaps. Dread, existential dread. And see, I don't have the answers. I have the answers seemingly, well, see, I seem to have some answers. And if by answer we mean some sort of, at least for now, resolution of some unresolved issues that I've experienced, right? But then, that's not something I can then tell other people, okay, well, this is what I did, so this will work for you because, we're different people. You're not me, vice versa. But where did my spoon go? There it is. It's a little dirty. Throwing a little peppermint tea in with my chicory root. Doing the pour over. Bam. Can't really see in there. Oh, you don't want to do. Oh, you meant more like what to do now. Yeah, well, I think it's okay to be lazy sometimes. Right? See, I read a little too much into that comment, didn't I? I like to take the ball and run with it. Sometimes to my own detriment, as we see. But we're learning. We're growing, arguably. Definitely not as energized as I was earlier, which is probably a good thing. I don't know how long I can, withstand such a fervor as earlier. It does take a lot out of me, certainly. So I'm gonna have some ginseng though, since I only had half my normal amount. I don't. It hasn't historically. It's not kept me up. So, and I'm on a 34, so I guess it really doesn't matter. I guess I could stay up a little later, couldn't I? Where's my knife? There it is. I do need to plug this other phone in though. Down to 24%. Plug it in. Okay. Uh-oh. There it goes. All right, she's charging now. It's not charging at a very high rate though. Oh yeah, it is. Never mind. I read it wrong. 18.9 watts, baby. Miss Beck's in the house. You missed the spiritual talk earlier, but that's all right, I guess. What's up, Chuck? Good day to you. Let's do this again. We can do this again, but I don't know. I don't know how this is going to go, but we'll try it. So we're trying. I guess not a new thing, but we're trying things. See what happens. You know. T minus 5 minutes till Benton's yelling at somebody, right? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe he really has turned over a new leaf. Metaphorically. I mean. Oh, shit. Yeah, I'm going to sleep good tonight. Woo-wee. Maybe that'll bring him in. Okay, there we go. Water is boiled. It's time for the egg concoction. Looking forward to it. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. This is just about the quietest truck stop I've ever experienced. So, hey, it's Chuck. What up,
What's
Chuck?
up, Ben? What up, dude? Boy, you got
What
out of
up?
Memphis just in time.
What happened?
Jesus, they get flooded out. All the underpasses on the interstate. And then between me and Nashville on I-40, they had to close it down east and westbound because of the high winds or tornado
Oh my
dumped a
God.
bunch of dumped a bunch of trees on both sides of the interstate.
Wow.
Freaking mess. Yeah, and I got
Was that
about
today?
yesterday.
Oh, okay. I got through there this morning, and I guess most of it got cleaned up. Then that's crazy.
Yeah, but I had
Damn,
about a
dude.
2 feet of water in my no flood basement. Burned up 2 pumps and got it all pumped out. Woke up this morning with another 1.5 feet of water, so I had to go to Lowe's and buy the last pump they had.
Damn, dude.
Yeah, it was a finished no flood basement. That's
Yeah.
good.
There.
I got to rip everything out, all the drywall, the floor. It was completely finished. It was my granddaughter's bedroom, and everything's down there floating around. She had a
Dude.
trund, she had a trundle bed. Both mattresses are filled with water. Oh, it's a mess.
Damn, dude.
If I had a
That's
grenade, I might throw it down there.
shit, man.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
it's a.
that's well, I guess a lot of people are going through that right about now.
Oh yeah, I sent Flo a couple of pictures of how bad it was.
Yeah, what'd he
Well,
say?
outside the house anyway. He said, "Dude," he said, "is it in your house?" I said, "Well, no, the basement. There's a problem now in the basement that I gotta tear out all the drywall to see where it's leaking in from. Either that or the foundation of the floor of the basement, because they got a nice tile floor in there. You know, it's completely finished." And so I'm going to have to start ripping it out and see where the water's coming in, because there is no sump hole, because it's a high enough elevation. It's a no flood zone, so I can't get flood insurance for it.
Oh man.
And
Yeah,
they
I was
said,
gonna
well,
ask about that.
you could try FEMA since we turned you down. I'm like, yeah, I seen all the help they gave the people in North Carolina.
Hmm.
What, $700? A lot of them didn't even get it.
Well, the government is not here to help the people, that's for sure. We already know that.
Oh, they're here to help themselves.
There you go.
That's a fact. And what good ones do get in there, they get corrupted. You know, you either play along or you don't. You get disposed of.
Hmm. So what good are they then?
I ain't figured that out yet.
Yeah. No
You
good if you
seen
ask me.
you seen
What's that?
Mr. Elon's leaving office, didn't you see?
Yeah, I keep up with the news just enough to sort of know what's going on. So
His 130 days of being a special employee is running out, so he has to
yeah.
leave. But from what
Yep.
I understand too, he's causing too much friction with people.
Too,
You
well,
know,
I've
by
been following what's going on with Social Security. That's been real interesting. That's mainly what I've been paying attention
yeah,
to.
me too, because I'm on Social Security, so I've been
Well, there
paying
you
good
go.
attention to that.
I'll bet. Yeah, that's a whole mess. But I'll tell you, I do feel like people are not you, but just in general they have trouble framing these issues properly because it's all in the context of the banks continuing to receive their interest payments for the
Yep,
interest on the national debt. So that's
right.
what all these cuts are about. Because the fact is, it's now the stage where the country, the finances of America can no longer continue to make those ever increasing debt payments.
Yeah, they're
They
just
just,
paying
yeah.
interest. They're not even paying the debt. They're just paying the interest on the debt.
Oh, and adding to the debt.
Yep.
Not only not paying the debt, paying the interest while simultaneously adding to the debt.
Makes a
Yes,
lot of sense.
the debt is rising. So last year, fiscal year 2024, 1.15 trillion for debt service, and that's, by the way, that's the majority of income taxes for individual income taxes.
Is it?
That's the majority of the money that Americans pay to the government for taxes. Yes.
Wow.
So when people talk about the taxpayer this and the taxpayer that, I think, well, that's the biggest sucker there is, because they're almost, the majority of their tax money, and I guess mine now, since I'm back in the workforce, goes to bankers. And those bankers are so rich that 10 generations from now, their descendants won't have to work a day in their life unless they want to. That's how rich they are.
Well, I remember that there was an actor, Fred Thompson.
Yeah, I know him. Yeah.
Yeah, he was from Tennessee and he played the district attorney on Law and Order, big heavy
Oh, yeah.
set guy. Well, he
Yep.
got into the Senate and he got so sick and tired of it. He said, "You can't do a damn thing up here without kissing somebody's ass." He said, "They won't listen to shit." So he quit and went back to acting. He
Well,
said,
good
"This
for
is
him.
stupid. Why should I waste my time trying to help everybody when I just get it in the back end?"
And can't get anything done anyway.
Exactly. He said, "You can't pass a single issue that makes common sense without them wanting to tag 900 other items onto it."
Well, and that's because the banks and the corporations own the Congress, and
And how,
it's going to serve them first. And then if there's something left over, then maybe the people will be served, but probably not.
I mean, have none of these people ever had checkbook 101 class? You know how to balance your checkbook?
Well, that's not the failure, though. See, that implies that they're aiming to do things properly, and they're just not capable. The
Very
fact is,
true.
they're serving their master, and they're serving their master so well because their master will make sure that they're removed from office if they don't do what they're supposed to do. So, in fact, they are doing exactly what they were sent there to do. And if they don't, then they will be made to leave office. That's just how that works. They have no choice.
Yep.
Hmm.
I
Ain't
remember
up to them.
quite a few years back, we had a representative when I lived in Illinois. His name was Melvin Price. And he was in there. They kept voting him in. And his last term, he was comatose in a wheelchair. It was unfreaking real.
Well,
And he
you saw
actually
this.
died. He died in office.
Well, you
I
saw this
mean,
deal with Cory Booker supposedly setting the record for the longest speech and the filibuster. You saw whose
yeah,
record he
I
broke.
saw that.
Did you
Yeah.
see whose record? Who you see who used to have the
Uh,
record?
crap.
It was that Strom Thurmond who was like supposedly the biggest
Oh
racist.
yeah, the KKK
Hmm.
leader. Yeah,
Yeah, I thought that was kind of funny. So they had a black guy break his record.
kind of ironic, huh?
Yeah,
And
it's just kind of
I
cutesy, I guess.
suspect I suspect that's why Cory Booker did it because he's extremely racist against white people.
Well, I mean, I guess that's his part to play, right? Because again, it ain't up to him how to
Yeah,
behave. It's
yep.
not up to
Uh,
him. But yeah.
I mean, who was the last one that died in office? Dianne Feinstein?
Oh, is
Wasn't
she
she like?
dead? Good. I mean,
Yeah,
that's terrible.
she was like. Well, it turned out her daughter, or was it her daughter? Or it was oh, what's that old lady and that used to be Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi's daughter, I think, was taking care of her. But it
Oh
turned
shit.
out at the end there that it was Pelosi's daughter making all the decisions for Feinstein
Mm.
because she was incapable.
Oh, that
I
makes
like,
sense.
oh my God, why did we allow this dumb shit?
Well,
I mean, I know why. It's a rhetorical question.
yeah, exactly. Because sadly, the American people, there's no end to what the American people will tolerate. That's the answer.
There's a couple of freshman congressmen. They were from Illinois, not yeah, representatives from Illinois, and they did a little documentary type thing a few years ago. They got the Congress with these great ideas how to help the people, and they was bucking the system up there, and their offices ended up in a broom closet in the basement, and they could
Yeah,
not get on any committee because of their resistance to all this bullshit going on. And
exactly.
they're like, what the hell are we supposed to do?
Hmm. Well, it's an
He,
impossible mission. It's a mission impossible.
the one guy said, here's a picture of my office when I first got there. He said, I came in one day and I'm like, where's my office? I can't get in. They said, well, we moved it. And it was down in the basement in a broom closet. He was
Nice.
showing pictures. Yeah, it's disgusting.
Well, and like a typical American, he just accepted it, right?
I don't
It's all
know.
right.
I think he might have resigned
Oh,
when he
okay.
realized that there was absolutely nothing he could do.
Yep. So, yeah, yeah. For me,
They're
it's
gonna,
just more. I pay just enough attention to sort of follow what's going on, but
yeah. That I used
I'm
to
certain
follow
that
it hard, but I don't anymore.
yeah, nothing's going to happen that's going to help the common people. Like that, I can guarantee you
Tell
with
you
near
what,
certainty.
yeah, we're going. The country's going to break one of these days, though. We won't be able to sustain this false momentum that's going.
Oh, the country's bankrupt right now.
I know
Country's insolvent. Country can't pay its bills. That's what
none of
people
them.
don't understand about finance. Those banks can call all that in. Now I understand a lot of it's done with treasury securities and all this stuff and bonds and all of that, but those banks can just say, "Hey, you got to pay us what you owe us," and at that point, it's just a wrap.
Yep.
It's over, and then it's just like, well, I guess we'll shoot it out, or the government will shoot it out, not we, but
Somebody's going to shoot it out in
the
one form,
robots
fashion. Yeah.
and the robots. Well, let me check my phone here. I think. What's that, Chuck?
Oh, I said, go ahead.
Yeah, I think Bex was backstage. Let me see if she's still around.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
I got to dip anyway. I got to run here, pick up some parts out of the
All right,
hardware
brother.
store. All right,
Cool,
good
man.
seeing
Thanks
you, Benton.
for yep, have fun with the floodwaters. Nice
Thank
chatting
you.
with you.
All right,
All
you
right,
too,
man.
bud.
Later.
Bye.
Yep. Yep. Welcome to the stage, Miss Bex. Long time no chat. What's up, Bex?
Very, very good to see you. Very good to see you. Thank you for
Well,
having
thanks.
me. Yeah,
Sure.
I was just checking out one of your old streams recently, and I was just inspired to do the whole reunited, and it feels so good.
Yeah,
Because
I hear
I've
you
seen
on that.
myself sing it already. Anyways,
Nice. No,
yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Welcome back. I mean, I know you've never. I know. Anyways, it's nice to see you
Yeah,
streaming
I think
semi
I know it.
regularly.
I think I know what you mean. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've thought so. The truck driving certainly it lends itself to running my yap incessantly for whatever reason.
Well, in the last year and a bit or whatever, since we've talked less, your name comes up in conversations with people, or I'll bring it up in reference, but there are a lot of people that out there that really enjoyed listening to you driving, which is something that happened before I came along, even though you did it again 6 months ago or whatever, but I know that there's people that are really looking forward to those monologues.
Well, thank you.
um,
Thank you.
yeah, myself
Yeah, it's
included, being one of them.
awesome. Love that. It's mostly content, but occasionally, I do squirrel finds a nut or whatever, however that expression goes.
Hmm.
Occasionally I manage to latch onto something, but
Well, yeah,
If
and
one
also,
is,
from some of those other nuts, trees can grow. So sometimes even just
perhaps.
revisiting some of the ideas you've had, even if it's, some of us, and not just you, all of us, some loops do evolve, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, rarely, but yes, it
Yes.
does happen. I agree.
And not that I meant to refer to anything that you say in particular as
No,
like
I know
myself.
you didn't mean
Yeah.
me. I know
Yeah.
you didn't mean
Yeah.
me. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
I loop certain stuff, but I'd like to think I'm typically aware of it. But
well, and I
I
do
would
think
like
it
to
is
think.
human. It's human nature on some front to tell story, to repeat stories. Um,
Hmm.
and I wouldn't just say, like, I know my first thought is the family stories of the same story your parents tell over and over, or that you tell of your, at whatever family gathering, and everyone's like, oh, yet they've all heard it 15 times. They're telling it for the one new
Yeah,
in-law or something. So, but I
yeah.
think that stuff does happen in general in life. I think that's maybe people don't have enough to think. They don't think enough about things to have ideas, so they tell the same story. I don't know what the reasoning behind it is, but we all do it.
Well, that could be it, certainly. And actually, my father, who I do take after in certain ways, is very. He's has that exactly what you're referring to. He does that so much so that all of our family knows the few stories that he repeats, and we could tell the story at this point, but
Yeah,
he still
yeah.
continues to repeat the stories. And it's almost like, I'm not going to diagnose anybody, but it seems like a compulsion where once his mind goes to that story, like he has to tell it. And then it makes me think of, in the modern age, in the present age, where everybody has turn by turn navigation on their device, you know, God forbid I actually ask somebody about a location. Now and a lot of times it's the older folks, they must give me the directions. And I think it's some version of that. He just has to tell it now that it's in his mind.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
like he has to,
Yeah.
which is okay. But again, I'm just going to stand here and, wait till it's over. But um, yeah, it's interesting phenomenon. And I know I have my versions of that. So the reason I brought up my father is I feel like those are tendencies that I've defeated. I've mostly overcame in my own life. So, when I do repeat myself, it could be way more than it already is really is where I'm trying to go. But
Yeah. I
yep,
feel that. I get that.
awesome. You went back to your old job. I heard.
Yes.
Was that
Yeah.
you?
Just part time. Yeah. Very
Yeah,
part
part
time
time.
for
Yeah.
now. With the rental company. And relatively specific tasks. I overworked myself in that place, as I did many others. And it's a lot of heavy lifting. So I was very specific in, how I could help them and streamline the process. So I'm their linen girl. Nothing exciting about
Nice.
that for other people over and over again. Um, so yeah, but yeah, it's exciting. And in
Cool.
essence, they would argue I never left. It's a job
Oh
I've gone
yeah.
and come from for over 10 years. Yeah. So, and they're
Hmm.
just happy to have me whenever I'm willing to offer them time. Hmm.
Love that. And
Yeah.
apologies for the mouth noises there. I have to rinse my mouth because my teeth are not doing quite as good as in the past, but I'm doing okay overall. So I
I'm
think
glad to hear it.
yeah, I
Yeah.
took that for granted for quite some time, and that was a mistake in retrospect. But live and learn.
Yeah. I've done the same.
Insert cliche here, right? But
Hmm.
yeah, I'm finding with my what may be an abbreviated return stint to truck driving that I'm way less willing to subject myself to stress, which interestingly, the driving is supposed to be the most stressful part. And in fact, I find it to be the least stressful overall. I mean, there's moments of stress here and there, but
Yeah.
typically it's not stressful at all for me. But it's a lot of the other things that I'm finding I'm just not willing. I'm no longer willing, or I should say, very quickly, I'm realizing that, yeah, I will tolerate some amount of stress, but then at a certain point, I just tap out, and it's just like, okay, this is all I'm
Yeah.
willing to worry about this particular thing.
Well, would you say that it's your self-discipline that helps you, where the driving isn't the stressful part? Because I know for me, when I don't go on a lot of like long drives, you know, and I've only driven in cars or, you know, I've driven a rental truck or whatever, right? But nothing compared to a big rig. But I
Yeah.
know that driving in snow, for instance, is very hard on the body, period. It just is, you know, like when you're not
Yeah.
used to it and when you're going up over a mountain pass and, you know, when I get somewhere on the other side, I am fried, you know? So I can imagine that
Yep.
truck driving for some truck drivers, that's what it's like all the time on top of being on a deadline. And, you know, not that the road itself is dangerous, but just that you have that cautious sense of, you know, whereas I think your self-discipline would allow you to properly compartmentalize those kinds of emotions and keep them in reason.
Well, yeah, definitely. That's just sort of you know, a thing that's kind of inborn as far as once it gets dicey, you know, if we're either going to shut down or we're going to, you know, do things properly. There's really no in between.
Yeah.
But for me, it's really the driving in good conditions is mostly pattern recognition,
Yeah.
and a lot of traffic patterns repeat, and then it's, you know, there's an ability to kind of predict what's going to happen before it happens, and a lot of those things. But then also, you know, when the shit goes wrong, to be able to not panic or not, you know, some people have a visceral reaction of like fear or terror, whereas I tend to stay, you know, quite calm typically when things go sideways. And I think that, again, I think that's just built into me for whatever reason. Um, but yeah, the driving again, if it was just driving, I would probably never quit.
Yeah.
You know, it's when we involve humanity and the folly comes in with the scheduling of the loads and, you know, the expectations of all these other people, the lack of communication at times, but you know, just the various encumbrances of dealing with other humans,
Yes,
and
of
then their
course.
agenda versus my agenda, you know.
Well, and you know, I'm assuming that setting up trucks is a lot like dispatching taxis, only in a profit maximizing system. I'm sure they're not necessarily allocating enough time for truck like I'm sure they're putting more stress on truck drivers than they are on a cab driver, you know, like in terms of making sure you don't necessarily have the time to deal with um uh the human anomalies and, you know, whatever things that might come up. So I just have a feeling there's no help from the dispatch end per se.
Yeah, I mean that's a yes and no, but you're definitely onto something there. That does happen, but uh, you know, some of that I think is they'll never be able to relate to what we do because they work, you know, normal business hours. And
Yeah.
especially somebody like me who I'm at my best and I'm at my full, you know, my full faculties is, you know, 2 a.m. to probably 10 a.m. Like that's the best they're ever going to get out of me. And then recently driving, you know, more almost the opposite hours, which I'm capable of, but you know, they're not really getting that maximum productivity because with the first week I started, they managed to get me rolling and I worked only my preferred schedule. And I think it probably gave them a kind of a skewed perspective of what I was capable of. It's like, yes, I can do all of that. But remember at 2 a.m, there's not really traffic. You know, there's the conditions are more in my favor as long as I can dodge the drunks. And then, you know, and it's also when I'm at my best. So, but you know, it's such an undesirable job that, you know, realistically, I would really have to annoy them for them to get rid of me. I'm pretty sure, but you never know. It's a very precarious undertaking. Certainly, any number of things could happen that would preclude me from continuing to do the job. If that makes sense, but not by way of complaint, just more of a reasonable assessment of the reality of the situation. And I make good money. It's not as much as I should make, but it's good money comparatively, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
So if I actually worked a whole year, which I have in the past, but I was still a new driver. But at this level of experience, I would make somewhere around 90,000 pre-tax. which, as we know, is not great overall. Looking at the median income and all of this stuff, but as far as somebody like me, it's not bad.
Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking. I'm not that I know a lot about your work history per se, but I also know that you're someone who
Oh, it's not
works.
good at all. If I tried to go get hired, sorry to cut you off, but yeah, if I had to go into like the regular workforce, I'd be working fast food or retail or you know, if I was still capable of manual labor, it'd be manual labor all day, which I did used to enjoy to some extent, but yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say that's the thing I least like about aging. And it's not I'm not the known for my fitness level, let's say. So I know if I were in better shape and took better care of myself, I could keep up better to these physical jobs I've done in my life. But I also know that about 5 or 6 years ago, I did get in the best shape of my life, and I wasn't willing to waste it on work then.
There you go.
You know,
Exactly.
they don't
Yeah, I
get it. So
mean,
yeah.
yeah, they're only paying for a certain amount of effort ultimately.
Yes. And if I were to get in shape again, I'd be even less likely to use up that effort and offer it up to an employer to waste and hurt unintentionally. But my job, where I've worked and what I do is very physical labor. I know people don't think of that when it comes to food service, but when you're in catering and rentals and stuff like that, you are feeding hundreds of people a day, hundreds and hundreds of people a day. It's like it is heavy lifting.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
yeah, I used to walk, but in my last two jobs, I walked a minimum of 12,000 steps a day, in addition
Mm,
to lifting by the time you've loaded it onto a cart and into the car and onto carts and back onto shelves and then back onto the workstations, a couple tons of food daily, 5 days a week.
damn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
So. Not to mention in the rental company, it's way heavier than that. I mean, you're using dollies and stuff. So it's not like I'm like, oh, look at me lifting tons and tons. I'm not carrying it. I'm just lifting it. Yeah. But I
Yeah, I
imagine
mean, I
you've
think.
done, yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Your job has, well, used to at different points, truckers do a lot of that too, right? Depends on what job you've
I
specified, whether
don't.
it's
Yeah, I
supplying. Yeah.
don't. But yes, some truckers do a lot of unloading. It's food service, by the way. Yeah, truckers that
Yeah.
deliver to restaurants and bars. Yeah, they lump all that stuff themselves. I don't ever. I almost never unload a truck. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Smart though. It's good.
Well, I mean, when I was more physically capable, there was times when I would have preferred to because I wouldn't have waited as long. But yeah,
Yeah.
most places the driver's not allowed to touch the cargo. But Razvan's running into a situation where some of these places he goes, they expect him to load the truck himself for
Oh,
no
really?
extra pay. By the way, yeah, yeah. He goes to the facility and they make him take like an orientation film or whatever, and bare bones, just enough training to satisfy insurance, and then it's like, here's your hand truck, go have at it, partner. And
Yeah.
and that's, by the way, if people don't, and I'm sure you're aware of this, or I would assume you are, but I'm not sure that the general public fully grasps just what a corporate structure is, in that the corporation will never stop streamlining labor. Like it just, there's no end to that.
Yeah.
It will never stop streamlining labor and paying as little as possible for labor.
Yeah.
And eventually corporations, will find a way to just not pay for labor at all. Like that will absolutely happen. And in fact, I do a lot of work. I work just straight up work for free a lot in my job. There's just a lot of things I do. I just am not paid for, period.
Yeah.
And so I'm already, working for free. But again, I'm happy with my paychecks for the most part. So.
Yeah, in the restaurant industry, there's a rule of thumb to be at work 15 minutes early.
Hmm.
In my career, because I've done so much in so many different capacities, front and back of house, that's what non-negotiable on me. I don't get paid. I get paid to put my apron on. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I get paid to wash my hands. I'll always be outside having a cigarette. And if I quit smoking, which I haven't, I would have been out there early in my car a little bit, You need me, you want to come
Yeah.
get me, I'll go on the clock early. But I don't do I don't do anything. I do enough for free outside of work to show up for work early, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that I would actually encourage people to negotiate if their employers expect that from them. You know, I would even encourage people to negotiate phone calls from the employer being charged for, um, personally,
Oh,
you know?
absolutely. Yeah, yeah,
Like,
for sure. And then, well, and when we're talking about a smaller organization and a mom and a pop and all of this, that is more possible. But, at the corporate level, more often than not, the corporation dictates, the conditions under which the work is performed. And they also dictate, um, what the pay will be. And it seems to me like, and a channel I listen to is sort of helped me realize this, but these corporations absolutely prey on the desperation of the worker to be able to get things more in the corporation's favor. And then something I've noticed myself is that, when you get to the monopoly level, as far as like a Target and a Walmart and all of these big box stores, they all collude with each other and they will not compete with each other on the price of labor. They just simply are unwilling to do that. All
yeah,
those
I've
jobs
even
pay
heard of,
about the same. Go ahead.
yeah, I don't know if it's true or not because I don't think it happens up here in Canada because I've seen people move from one local fast food restaurant to the other, working wise, right? Like, they'll move from across the street, work somewhere else. But I know that I've read about non-competition clauses in the States with these fast food industries, not just the collusion on price, on wage, which they could say is a government set wage, right? And they can hide behind that minimum wage, but also that they actually won't hire someone from across the street. It's that far. You know what I mean? Like that they
Yeah.
actually won't hire
Yeah.
you from
Poaching.
A&W if you worked at McDonald's. Yeah, no poaching
Yeah.
makes you
Poaching.
incapable of moving from one fast food to the other. In the States, I'd heard. I don't know if that's true or not.
Well, yeah, Canada's certainly not nearly as abusive in many ways, from what I've seen, not being, seeing it firsthand, but from what what the information I've taken in, it seems like Canada is way less abusive overall. But
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely that's one of the things about socialism, right? Is that they will, you'll find policies change in favor of the renter, in some ways, and then you'll see the rebound effect of the policies change in favor of the landlord to try and balance these, or employer and employee, vice versa, stuff like that, right? So there is definitely, sort of more ping ponging in change, but essentially, I would say socially, they're always trying to make it seem like everyone's being cared for, with their
yeah,
policy changes.
yeah,
And then as a Canadian, I mean, that's me just speaking, to an American audience. Like, I mean, we in Canada do see it as better. I as a tenant don't like the fact that, some of the laws are very infantilizing,
mm,
like I can't have, if I wanted to share my apartment with a man, I need to ask permission, right? I may need to move if my cat dies and I want to replace her, technically I'm supposed to ask the landlord for, it's just very infantilizing,
okay,
uh,
yeah,
but other than that, that's really my only complaint. I really enjoy not being responsible for the repairs to my home and knowing that if I'm if they're not repaired, I have a means of being compensated,
hmm,
so
yeah, makes sense. Yeah,
yeah. So anyways, all I'm
yeah,
saying is, yeah, I can see why the Americans can see Canadians, as irritating or as so different, because we really do, socialism has us pretty spoiled, for lack of a better way of putting it, spoiled, or naive and naive, like children, in the way that it can work in other countries, you know?
yeah, that makes sense. I can see that. Ultimately, my opinions of America is I'm always going to prefer to see money and resources go to human beings versus going to uh, corporations and executives and bankers and banks that are already wealthy. And for some reason,
Yes.
America loves to give its money and resources to institutions and people that are already rich. And I do think it's tied in with the American dream psyop, the idea that, everybody has the potential to become wealthy, and absolutely not. This is
No.
it's virtually impossible to go from poor to rich in this country. Now, a poor
Yeah.
person can, in my experience, real quick, it's possible for a poor person to experience relative affluence, but they still are not rich, because I define rich as a rich person doesn't have to go anywhere or do anything for the foreseeable future, and their lifestyle continues on.
Mm-hmm.
Versus a poor person who's experiencing what may be temporary affluence, such as in the case of my own family, my father, my immediate family. um, he still had to go to a place and do a thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it turns out he's virtually he's living in poverty, right? Well, it turns out, of course, why would I think that, my family, being born in the most historically impoverished region of the country, why wouldn't we be poor, meaning my family? And the reality is we always were. I just happened to come along at a time in which there was, relative affluence, which is not the same as being a
Mm-hmm.
wealthy person. It's completely different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I appreciate the distinction. I think it's important.
Yep.
I think also, as you were telling the sort of story about, as you were defining that, I was thinking that I think that, whether communist, capitalist, socialist, I would bet you that rich people in all of those, wealthy people in all, by that definition, in all of those countries experience life quite similarly.
Yeah, I would think so.
There is, it doesn't affect them except for maybe at the money earning end would be where the differences may lie. But
Well, I mean, to me, that's just a diversion. It's like their fortune is secured, and, for the next 10 generations, and once it's secured, nobody can really undo it. And then if the person just has a desire to go make their own money, like a Paris Hilton or whatever, then that opportunity is always there because of the family connections and everything they were born into. That's the way I view all of
mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's more of just a person who's driven and wants to do things at the level of financial success versus, the stereotypical rich kid or Nepo baby or whatever that just, frivolously enjoys their time, which is, I don't know that that's invalid necessarily, but, it's a different take on things. But I think it
Yeah.
limits the damage that the person born into those circumstances, in my view, it limits the harm they can do to themselves at the level of, like, ruining the family's fortune, which I don't even think is a thing. Like, is it
Yeah.
possible for somebody to be born into one of these families and then, oops, I pressed the red button and now the family's broke? Like, I don't think that's possible.
No. And I would say if there is any family that teeters on or plays a riskier financial game, they've planned their bankruptcy. They've got Plan B as potential bankruptcies. You know what I mean? Like, they've got their portfolios so diversified. I don't think that it would be turned into an economic advantage. Is all I'm trying to say. A write-off of
Well,
sorts.
and you may know this, but, I think of things like the general public I've talked about as not processing data, discreetly, individually. So, Bill Gates is still seen as this formerly, purportedly to be the world's richest man. And then this idea that Elon Musk is the richest man in the world. But none of that is the case, of course. But
Yeah.
the reality is, Bill Gates is not even the wealthiest former CEO of Microsoft.
Yeah.
Steve Ballmer has a higher net worth than Bill Gates. And yet Bill Gates is still this symbol of the American dream, and, it's possible to rise to this level. And then the idea that Elon Musk, rose to this, I don't view it as a thing that can happen. It just doesn't seem possible to me. As far as
Well,
just
yeah.
Joe Blow, just happening to be in the right place at the right time, and here's serendipity, and he happened to have the right skill set, and, now world's richest man. Like, that just doesn't make
Mm-hmm.
sense. It's like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Bill Gates, symbol of wealth, not even the wealthiest former CEO of Microsoft. So what are we talking about?
Yeah, it's very typical of us to even assume that the wealthiest person in the world, or some of the wealthiest people in the world, are known to us.
Yeah,
Right?
they know not to
Like,
let us. They know not to publicize themselves to the people.
well, yeah, and if we really want to sit back and look, like, is Bill Gates nearly as wealthy as, half the, I don't even know what their title is called, but the, United Arab Emirates oil
Oh
guys,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, who I don't know the name of, and I'm sure many Middle Easterns do, Middle
yeah.
Eastern people do, like, I'm not trying to make it seem, because I am in the West here. I don't, read these other languages, and nor am I a geopoliticist. I leave that up to one of my favorite content creators. But so yeah, but obviously it's really, when we're throwing out all these names, why are all these names, names in our realm, not names that, definitely affect our realm, but that we would never know. So there's
Exactly.
people, yeah. And if I was super, super, super rich, I would definitely be the one who would be like, let Bill take the fall, man. Like,
Well,
at
yeah, of
least,
course.
yeah, yeah. I wouldn't want
Well,
anyone
and
to go do
then,
it.
well, and furthermore, as far as the UAE and all of that, I understand that culturally, it's quite, it's something I'm against the way that their culture operates. Uh, However, they do take care of their people if the stories are true, right? The people's access to resources, if they're able to, behave in that very repressive, restrictive culture, they do seem to actually care for their people. Whereas America, I don't see that at all. I don't. I see people just being left to their own devices and you know, uh, die in the streets. I used to say like a dog, but clearly that would not be allowed to happen. Somebody would care for the sick animal, certainly.
Yes. And I'm sure it's kind of depended on that way. I know people up here would say it would be the government that would step in, but if things fell apart enough, it's not that. The one good thing we know is that most poor people know how to share and
Well,
care.
yeah, I would say, yeah, out of necessity, certainly. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was my concern when everyone was talking about what happened in 2020 and then financially, sure, there was lots of sort of bailouts, whether it was paying people to stay home or businesses for loans and stuff like that here. But ultimately, there's a group of people that falling into poverty, the adjustment into poverty would cause a real scarcity of resources, because it can take some people a while to learn how to be poor, and they become very selfish. And,
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
they would, yeah, take more. But anyways, that's an adjustment. Yeah.
Well, and referring only to the states, I don't believe, it seems to me like most people in the modern age, especially the age of memes and social media, I'm not sure that folks have an appreciation for how historically impoverished the entirety of the United States has been, and not that long ago. Like there has been rapid progress in the common folks' access to money and access to
Mhm.
there's certainly a high standard of living overall. And as much of America resembles a third world, that's not, in my opinion, that's not that unusual historically.
No, it's
Like,
like that white.
and real quick, something, and I'll pass it back to you. A state like Louisiana and their famous governor Huey Long, a big part of how he became beloved was they didn't have paved roads. He paved most of Louisiana, and that was like beginning in like the 1930s. It took probably till the 60s. This was not very long ago, but please go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, it's that white picket fence picture on TV that makes people think that was the history that we come from. Is that because our grandparents might have been able to, and I say might have been able to, because a lot of grandparents couldn't. They were tenants, but buy a home for 30,000 on one income or whatever, 17, 15,000. I don't really care. It's just unheard of now. But it was
Well, not entirely, but it's effectively unheard of. But go ahead.
Yes, true. So I just think that people think that up until our grandparents' era, that's what was going on all the time. Meanwhile, that's like a post-war industrialization, you know, stepping stone to where we are, like I think, right? So yeah, I just think that the stability, yeah, it was short-lived. It was almost like a prop. It was like a sucker punch,
I agree with that. Yeah, I
Yeah,
completely agree. Yeah.
yeah,
And then, as far as, the business side of things, it seems to me like, I go to Memphis, Tennessee, and I pick up a load and I go to certain areas, and almost all of the industrial areas of virtually all of these cities, are typically located near the downtown. A lot of times it's near a river, and almost all of that stuff was built no later than like the 60s. You can just tell
yeah,
based on the design of the buildings and the brick. So it seems to me like the powers that be most likely would have had an understanding that all of that was being built up, and that would be for a time, and then it would be allowed to decay. But then a lot of that infrastructure, that industrial infrastructure, is still being used. Like, so what happens was I went to pick up a load in Memphis and their power was out, and it was on the heel of these storms. But Memphis did not get hit by a tornado, but the general area had, near cataclysmic level tornadoes. In fact, in Arkansas, where I'm from, not the area I'm from, but, from my home state, which is close to Memphis. And the result of that was that infrastructure is so old that the power had been out by the time I got there since 4 p.m. the previous day, which led to, in some ways, actually, I produced much less this week than I otherwise would have. Now, it's not a big deal for me. In fact, I would prefer to work less, actually. My preference would be to live in the truck and never drive more than 2,500 miles in any given 7 day period. That'd be my preference, but that's not realistic. It's not going to happen. However, um, what if there was people depending on my salary, and I'm doing piecework, and now, because of what was most likely designed to then crumble, same thing with the roads and the bridges, as far as I can tell. And I'll pass it back to you on this, which is when I left California and drove east on I-10, somebody with some large piece of equipment had crashed into the overpass in New Mexico, and the overpass was in such a dilapidated state that it physically broke the fucking overpass. And I've never seen that, because in America, if somebody pays attention, virtually all of these overpasses have somebody's hit them with something, meaning driving a vehicle that was too tall. But typically they withstand the impact, and this one didn't. So, but anyway, I'll give it back to you on that.
No, I've always appreciated how your mind works for that, that trickle down effect, that, bigger overview of the impact that things can have. And even the, meticulous, mileage driven within a work, a specific work period. I know that it's not just thrown out there randomly,
Well, thank you. And I had the benefit of growing up in a time warp in Southeast Arkansas. So when I was in public school, yeah, it was a ridiculously easy Arkansas education, but because of the nature of budgeting and the nature of the local government not being willing to spend much, we had textbooks and like film strips and all of this from a different time, right? So when I went into the classroom in the 80s, it was actually still a lot of the materials of the 60s. So I kind
Same
of
here.
caught the tail end of, and I'm glad to hear that. So what was the big push in the 60s? A lot of that was sort of urbanization and, this urban renewal projects, literal projects in the States and all of this. And, I feel like a lot of people sort of missed the boat on that and just aren't really aware of it. And now some of it's coming back through, documentaries on YouTube, but I had a very strong sense of that even as a child, not really
Yeah.
understanding and comprehended it fully, but at least an immersion and an exposure to it. And I found it to be quite instructive in my life.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, but even that observation is another great Bentonism.
Well, thank
You know?
you. It's
Yeah.
just meditation. I mean, ultimately, it's some bozo that's just meditating all the time. I mean, and I don't mean to minimize, but to me, it's neither here nor there. I'm surprised more people don't do it, and I'm sure you have your versions of that as well. But
Definitely. It
yeah,
usually involves doing something. I know most people wouldn't
there you
say that
go.
that's meditation, but I know for me, I don't do it this way anymore. But one of the best ways that I would say, if people were to say, what was your best meditative, practice through your life, I would say jigsaw puzzles
There you
um,
go.
is definitely very good for me to focus on something and be able to think about many things while I'm doing it. So,
Love
but
that. Yeah,
speaking of
and
budgeting, Benton,
go ahead. Yeah, go
I have
ahead.
to go. I have to go. I've
All right, well
yeah.
done. That
Yeah,
was
thank you.
perfect.
And
Yeah.
thank you for having me. I look forward to further discussions and of course listening to you. I have listened quite a bit after the fact.
Oh,
I
great.
miss a lot of live streams these days, but yeah. Thanks for having me,
Well,
Benton.
and as you know, it's just I'm not necessarily on top of my game, but if one is willing to pick through the foolishness, then there's something there some of the time.
Well, exactly, and that's the benefit of having. That's the
Yeah.
benefit of having a phone addiction,
Hey,
right?
I'm right there with you.
Yeah,
I'm not a
yeah,
phone
yeah,
person, but I'm addicted to the YouTube, certainly.
yeah. Me too. Well,
I
I
will
look
cop to
forward to
that.
the next time, and I'll still be listening for a while there down in chat. And have a great
Right
day, and
on.
be safe out there. Bye for now.
Yep. Bye bye. Yeah, that was Miss Bex. And it's always fun to sort of stretch my legs with somebody who's not that other people are. And Chuck actually did a great job with the political stuff, and I shouldn't say actually. So shout out to Chuck. He held up his end of the political discussion quite nicely, I must say. And so let's not just restrict that to Bex, but I do enjoy those style of conversations certainly. And that is you know intellectual food, right? And hopefully the audience gets a benefit of it, and not anything life changing, but certainly something of a novel perspective, perhaps. I don't know how special overall, but very human, I would say. And I've always enjoyed those style of conversations, which, as we all know, or if I'm willing to speak for the crowd, are harder and harder and harder to come by, over time. Yeah, that's right, Bex. Bex says good to see the chat, whether they're chatting or not. Yeah, and some of that's my fault because I've beaten up on the chat enough lately. They've not that they're ever going to do what I want them to do, but I've done something to where they're typing less into the chat for whatever reason. But for better or for it's probably better overall. And I do allow myself to become way too distracted by the chat at times. But I'm not a victim of that. It's me. Yeah, and some of it is I do enjoy the chat commentary. Certainly, it adds a lot, of course. But sometimes it's better. Sometimes less is more, right? Just like the broadcast. And I would be inclined to move on, but I don't really have anything else going on, and I really need to make myself stay up later because no matter what happens, I'm gonna wake up super fucking early, and I'm not particularly fatigued. In fact, I'm still sky high off the caffeine. And a shout out to the ginseng, by the way. But I will take a quick moment and brush the old teeth if y'all don't mind. So BRB in about 90 seconds. Yeah, I just realized I failed to turn the truck back on because I'm trying to keep the operating temperature, up. And, I realize I failed. It's dropped down to around 150. See if I can get it back up at least 170, 180. And is it even possible, by the way, is it even possible, for me to find a job in trucking that would, meet most of my preferences, right? I would love to just, unless something were to go wrong, because that's always a possibility, but, you know, where more often than not, I would drive my preferred hours, I would have, equipment like I'm driving now, which, doesn't nag me to death other than the disembodied female voice nagging me to slow down at times. But, the truck goes fast. It doesn't accelerate fast, but it has a high top speed compared to most of these over the road trucks. And now I got the fan. Now I'm actually lowering the temperature because the fan's kicked on. Oh, well. Oh, and now we're shutting down because I forget that they've designed the idle where it'll shut itself down. They've realized in the past that people like me on one of my older trucks, I bought a 15-pound weight and I propped it up on the accelerator to keep the truck from shutting down. So now if a person revs the truck up to a higher RPM for like 2 minutes in neutral, the truck will shut down. But my truck will run as long as the AC or the heater's on. Otherwise, it shuts itself off. And another thing I like about this truck is no APU. Because when I shut down early in the day in the summer, it's too fucking hot and the APU can't keep up, the auxiliary power unit. So I actually would prefer to idle the truck. So this truck idles, except for if I'm not running the climate controls. But I got it pretty good on this job, relatively speaking, at least for now. But I would like to have some kind of dedicated run where all I do is go from like Phoenix to Dallas or something or along those lines, and then just back to Phoenix, back to Dallas, back to. I would never get bored of that. I don't need the variety. And I would know my stops. I would know, approximately what time I'll be where, and I'd be able to plan my day and all. And now I do enjoy sort of the flying by the seat of my pants nature of just willy nilly bebopping around, certain regions. And I do like our running areas. They don't ever send me to Cali. They don't ever try to send me to the Northeast, except for Pennsylvania, which I don't think I've been to PA yet on this job. But they told me they do go to. I think they do go to like as far as Philly, and I don't. It doesn't bother me at all. I don't mind Philadelphia right now. Sorry, Pennsylvania. It's got its quirks, but I don't. It doesn't bother me. Now there's a trailer over there, Southern Refrigerated Transport out of Texarkana, Arkansas. They went out of business about 5 years ago, so that must have been some of their equipment they sold off 4 to 5 years ago. They went under, and they were a fairly, like a medium-sized carrier, I guess. Probably, I'm just going to guess 500 to 1,000 trucks somewhere in there. But that's Covenant. Oh, maybe Covenant bought their equipment and just never bothered to. Or maybe Covenant owned them and then just the southern side went out, the SRT side. I don't really know. Covenant is mainly they're a mega carrier. They're mainly a team. They mainly do teams, mainly with some solo. But I think they make everybody start out teaming and then they eventually they can go solo, I believe is what they do. There we go. Get that temperature up. Let's see how much battery my phone's got here. Yeah, we're creeping up there. Creeping on up. Look at that. I used to have muscles. Look at that. Oh, Benton used to have muscles, didn't he? Wait a minute. Wait. They're gone now, Jack. Let me do this, maybe. Wow. Must look like one of them scrawny vegan women. Good Lord. with bingo wings. Yeah. It's a wrap on old Benton's muscles. Old Benton's muscles are dead. What about this? What are we going to do with this, y'all? What are we going to do with this? Is this maybe this is in line with the all the recent preaching? I could look like a one of them older the older school televangelists, right? There's the trucker chapel over there. I don't reckon we're gonna go check them out. All right. Well, we've had good success up until this point, so I don't know. Perhaps the third time is not the charm, but link in chat. Link in chat. I have some ideas of who I'd like to see show up, but I don't have control over that. Maybe I'll go with a mullet eventually, or shave the sides. The top's not long enough yet, though. And this is definitely a sign of my health improvements because even before I was aware of how ill I was, I had shoulder length hair. And I remember being confused because it got to where it wouldn't grow any longer. And looking back on it, I realized it was my poor health. My body wasn't able to assimilate proper nutrition. And my fingernails are still fucked. I still have those lines in my fingernails. I guess that's forever now. I don't know that that's ever. Now, I will say they're not near as brittle and dull. The luster has come back to the old fingernails, but you probably can't see on the camera, but they've got the streaks and lines in them. But we'll run it up the flagpole. I'm not a fan of this having to click twice to get the comment on the screen, though. Know about all that on StreamYard. I probably ought to check check the old Cash App balance. Oh, man. Yeah, I have been assimilated. I get paid on my Cash App now. Oh, we're still over $1,000. We're doing good. Hey, you want to talk about rags to riches? It wasn't that long ago. I was walking around LA picking up cans and bottles and e-bagging, and now I got 1.3K in my Cash App, and I earned it truck driving. It's never a dull moment down here in a heaven or hell realm, presently manifesting as a hell realm, in my opinion, anyway. Now, will I ever manage to go to the eye doctor, and will I ever manage to get me a new pair of glasses? I can't say enough about this lensesrx.com, not a sponsor. These glasses, I think I'm on 4 years of these glasses. Yeah, this is crazy. They're American Exchange. Is that what they're called? Armani Exchange. And I might go for a different style maybe, but it's fucking awesome. And they broke, by the way. At some point, I managed to break them and super glued them back together. Actual crazy glue. It's held for quite some time. I'm trying to remember. I think I dropped them and I guess the frame's gotten brittle over time and it broke. Frame cracked. Fortunately, I wore them like that for a while and before I got them repaired, before I glued them. The lens fell out a few times. Fortunately, it didn't go down a sewer grate, you know. Something's looking out for me. Something, whatever that may be. And I know what it is, but I'm being cheeky. But damn, this is how many hours of streams have I done today? It's got to be five more, like 8 hours probably. This is crazy. What's wrong with me? As we have fully made the transition into non-tent, do I have to put up the non-tent banner? Non-tent. Now, we are taking donos, but all donos will go directly to homeless people and other folks in need, right? So not needed or at this time, certainly. But if anybody feels like it, I will just directly give all donations directly to those who seem to be in need. And yeah, some of them will buy drugs and alcohol with it. There's really nothing any of us can do. I guess I could just go buy a bunch of socks and hand out brand new socks. There's not a homeless person anywhere who doesn't love to be gifted good quality brand new socks, not whatever bullshit is on offer at the Dollar Tree or whatever. I mean, actual, you know, good brand new good socks. Yeah, I'll hang out a minute, and then we're probably on the verge of calling it a day. I'll probably be back hooping and hollering and running my yap at y'all in the morning as I look around to make sure I'm not in the reserved parking, but I'm not. So, yeah, I love a big old gigantic truck stop like this. This is great. Yeah, fantastic. Nobody's here. Well, I say nobody. It's maybe 1/5 full, if that. All right, we'll give it one more try with the link. Probably going to change the old avatar soon. Wonder what I should change it to. I'm sure I'll still use this one some of the time. Now I'm starting to think. Somebody told me this was a symbolized Lilith. I don't know if I want to continue on in that vein. If that's the case, which it probably is. There's me in LA. Oh, how's that? A bit of a bit like a lesbian there, perhaps. No, it's a decent picture, I guess. I don't know. Not my favorite overall. Uncle Ted from the one of them shows. I'm not sure people recognize that as Uncle Ted though. And then my original avatar, Unabomber. And I guess StreamYard only uses the original icon because I've still got old Woody Harrelson down there. But yeah, I'm out of shit to say, which is rare. But I can feel my body is starting to figure out that it's about to have the opportunity to rest without, the pressure to work tomorrow. Not that it's pressure, but the body knows when things are going to be expected of it. On the morrow, on the morning, in the morning. What up, Clumps? Clumps. What up, Clump? Well, you're welcome, I suppose. Thank you for being here. Yeah, the caffeine. I cut the caffeine off too late. I'm realizing so, which is probably good because that's a good question, Jake. Could I drive? That's a good question. Could I drive teams with Bex? And I'll say this: I don't know, and I don't want to insult Bex. Uh, in some ways, I'm sure of it. In other ways, I think it would be difficult because, you know, we have to rest, right? Like when the one teammate is driving, the other one has to get a certain amount of rest, and I feel like there would be sort of a tendency to, although I could be wrong, but there could be a tendency to maybe interact too much. Uh, but there's probably, time in the day to have a convo. I don't know. I think ultimately there would be two factors if I was to team with anybody. Would be, um, number one, I'm probably not willing to cede any of the very limited territory in the truck. Number one. Number two, if I was, I would be very considerate, obviously, to the other person in their own space. But then we get into matters of hygiene, whereas I'm certainly not that overly concerned with mine. Although other people's doesn't necessarily bother me necessarily. And then also the person's just general driving ability. And I don't even mean a big rig, just attentiveness to the road, right? Just, I, for whatever reason, I seem to come out of the box with just a high level of attentiveness to driving in general. So I would find it difficult to be around people who did not, and I'm not saying she wouldn't, I think it would be difficult. Um, it'd have to be somebody it would be difficult to find somebody who would be willing to tolerate the hygiene, who would also be, an attentive, safe driver, because I drive quite aggressively at times, but it's like having two gears or having all the moves. Is when it's time to back off and be prudent, that I have no trouble going. I can go from sort of pushing the envelope and driving somewhat aggressively, although I don't ever throw my weight around or bully. I don't mean aggressive in that way, but just sort of pushing the envelope. But then when conditions change or conditions dictate it, to sort of fall back and let other people kind of take the lead in traffic, and, you know, uh, strategically, right? And, there's a lot of that goes into driving that, it's not that unusual. It's not that difficult. It's just, to me, it's a specific type of person, you know, and, ultimately I would say that the chances of me ever having, and I'm not referring to Bex, I just mean in general, a romantic partner would be very low, and it would be, I would say, virtually impossible to drive teams without, some version of a romantic partner. And then it would most likely only ever happen, it would be me training the new driver, right? Which also, if people aren't aware, listening to me talk, or Bex, especially if I talk to Bex, that I am, I'm being a little more, dare I say, liberal or left leaning. And I don't really like the term liberal anymore, because it no longer is used to mean what it actually is supposed to mean. But to someone who's certainly not nearly as conservative as most around here, I am concerned with power dynamics, right? Like, I am sort of concerned of, the ability to, the power differential, and sort of, the potential to sort of take advantage of that for my own purposes. Not that I wouldn't trust myself, but it's certainly something I would be sensitive to, and then, when I'm not driving, by the way, I'm not in charge of the truck. And then, I'm pretty sure I would be able to, uh, I would be able to resist the urge to sort of take over. And I don't think that would be too much of a problem. But during the training process, there's necessarily some of that where the trainer will invariably must step in because of the experience, the lack of experience on the case of the new driver. Such as when I was in my week of training over the road with the training engineer, I bungled an exit, and because I missed that exit, and it was due to traffic, that necessitated sort of the training engineer had to take over, because we were on something of a time constraint. So, he had to take over to be able to still make the delivery. What up, Christos? Yeah, that's right. Shout out to the chat addicts. Indeed. Beloved chatters. But like I say, I enjoy the actual driving. You know, there's some days when I drive further than I would otherwise prefer. You know, if I'm driving 650 miles, I'd probably rather drive closer to 5 or 550. But I think I only did 550 today. Let me see. And this is what I mean by this last week was less productive than normal. This was my driving. And remember, I'm not necessarily paid for all of this, but last 7 days was, oh, I did 569 today. Interesting. It's more than I thought. And then 386 yesterday, which is definitely lower than is typical. That's atypical, although within, that's within the normal range, certainly. 434 the day before that, and then 181. That was that day where the place I went to pick the load up at had lost power, and then they sent me that evening into rush hour traffic in a monsoon, and I drove an hour all the way across Memphis, only to not have been given the proper pickup information, and then waited on site for an hour for no pay, most likely. Although I don't know yet, and then drove an hour back to the same trucks. No, I didn't even go to the same truck stop. I drove an hour back to the same trucks. I was going to go to the same truck stop, would have had to pay $20, $22 to park, except I was like, oh, that's right. There's a weigh station here and the scales are open. And I pulled in and parked at the scales after crossing the scales, of course. And all the while saying, I hope they inspect me and I hope they place me out of service. That would serve the company right for doing this to me, because I was in my feelers and I had, in gambling parlance, I had exceeded the threshold of misery. I no longer cared what happened, other than just basic like safety and such. And then let's see, the day before that, 649 miles. Before that, 330, and before that, 587. And I think that came out to right at 2,800, which typically the goal of the company is 3,000 or more a week. But 2,800 is certainly within the acceptable range. Although when they pay me, I'm not sure how much I'll actually get paid for it. And they want to know if Christos has seen the DMT laser code. Not quite sure what that is, but maybe I am sure, having one time and one time only blasted the fuck off on DMT, and almost certain, although never say never, right? But almost certain there won't be a repeat of that. I don't even know if I'd be willing to eat mushrooms again at this point. Maybe. I guess I'd consider it. And like I said to Christos, I'm probably post cannabis, although again, not necessarily. Now, what I'm wondering is, this would be the perfect time for a cerveza, now that I think about it, because I'm done with all my food and I'm not going to sleep. And do they sell beer here? And then I'm certainly not willing to return to the truck with it. I doubt they serve beer. And then do I want to try to sneak around and drink it outside in my water bottle? Do I even want to get beer in my water bottle? I think the answer to that is no. And I never promised anybody complete abstinence from alcohol, just for the record, including myself. I don't know. This would be a perfect time for it. All right, I'm out. And they may not have beer, and I may not, but we're going to go look. Thanks for watching. Bye.